everyone, today I will be unboxing and reviewing the 1/7 scale figure of Kayamori Ruka from heavenburnsred. This is by Parco's figure company 1/, and it's very weird to me that Parco of all places are making figures now, but here we are. This figure was announced way over a year ago and had a life-size counterpart to go with it as well that was used at various events and things. They showed the life-size version first and then announced during a anniversary live stream that this will actually be a real figurine and it will be a 1/7 scale with Parco, and she's finally here. I've been waiting a very long time for her to come out, so I'm really excited to unbox her today. It's just crazy how much heavenburnsred has evolved over that period. This was one of the first big announcements and one of the first figure announcements actually for the game, and now way over a year later there's been so much more. Thinking about it, this is actually the first time ever that a protagonist from a key game is being made into a figure. Obviously this had a lot to do with the fact that that game has a female protagonist, but that's still a really cool achievement regardless. She also came with this pre-order bonus, which is a small clear file of the figure herself, and they've even illustrated over it just to really recreate that key visual. And on the back of the clear file we have the illustrations that were made for the girls travelling around Osaka. I'm not sure why this one was used exactly, but it's really cute nonetheless. And the inside of the box also perfectly replicates the key visual that she is based on. And inside of her packaging she comes wrapped like this, and you can see all of the various parts that make up the figure. I will say this box is rather large. Obviously she is very fragile. I do think it is rather wide for what the figure is, but maybe that's just me. I've had figures that have a little bit more width to them that come in a smaller box than this, so I'm not too sure. And here is how she looks when she is all put together, and I have to say I'm really blown away at the quality of this. I already had very high expectations as we had seen prototypes of this figure alongside its life-size counterpart at various events and exhibitions over the past year, and from those photos alone, from that very first prototype, she looked fantastic. And I really wasn't sure if they were going to carry over all of the really tiny details like the glitter in her hair or gloss over her eyes and shoes in the same way, but they have replicated absolutely everything from that first prototype, and just the fact that they really cut no corners with this, I'm really pleased, and I'm going to go over her in a little bit more detail up close. Her face, I think this is the most accurate representation of Yugen's artwork in a figure that I have ever seen. I do have one of his characters called Lutorionfang, and they did a really good job on that figure of replicating his art there as well, especially the colours, but I think this figure has captured his art style, the way he draws hair, the way he draws eyes a lot more closely, and I really like with heavenburnsred and his artwork, both his character designs and the characters that were designed by the graphickers and artists at Key. He has this slightly rough and messy style, yet he makes it look so beautiful. I really don't know how he does it. I could never draw like that and make it look good at the same time, so he really does. I really like the way he draws hair especially, it's very unique. And they've really gone the extra mile to replicate that here. The loose strands that he always adds everywhere. His artwork somehow looks like it was drawn quickly, yet it encaptures so many different details. This key visual that this figure is replicating is really well liked, and there's a lot of small details in that key visual that people often talk about. One of them being the reflection in the water being perhaps someone else. People aren't too sure. There's a lot of speculation around this key visual and what it means. This was the second or third key visual that came out for heavenburnsred, so a very prominent one in the series. This is the start screen when you boot up the game, and just the first time we really saw Ruka up close. I'm incredibly pleased that this was the key visual that they went for. I think it's a really, really lovely piece of art, and to see it replicated in 3D so well is really incredible. Something I mentioned earlier is that they have used this slight blue glitter on the hair, and this was something that was present in the prototypes as well, but I really didn't think that they would carry this over into the actual figures. I thought that that was just a very special version that they were going to use for the events. It's quite unusual to see a figure have sparkly hair like this, and I really, really love it. I think it really does a great job at, once again, capturing Yugen's art, as he is well known for using lots of different colours in things like hair and clothing and eyes. Moving on to her uniform, this has also been replicated really, really closely. I'm really impressed with all of the different details that they've added here. Even the stitching in her collar, the little button that's not done up properly at the top of her shirt there, these have also been replicated perfectly, and you can tell that they've paid really close attention to the illustration. Something I was really impressed with as well is the detail on the denjo. This has all of the little markings on there. I thought that was a really, really cool detail. The detail on the skirt as well, the folds are really well sculpted. I will say I thought it was quite strange that the skirt is glossy. It looks a little bit odd up against the shirt, but it's just a strange choice in my opinion for something like a skirt, for it to be so shiny. I also really like how she looks from the back. When taking photos from this angle, the pose looks really cool. You can see that blue glitter still catching the light there, and you can also see that the shading on her hair is really, really good. I think the sculpting and the shading on the hair are both really well done, because hair colour, depending on the interpretation, can look quite different between artists, and I did wonder how they were going to replicate that in a figure. Her prize figures have a very, very light blonde for her hair, and so do the plush toys and such as well, but I'm very glad that this figure really followed the colours that Yugen used in this key visual and really replicated that as closely as possible. Her seraph weapons, the detail on these is really amazing. I'm very impressed with how they've replicated these as well. They're not exactly something you see up close too much in the game due to all of the animation and movement that goes on. I really like how these have been replicated. And of course with Ruka, she is unusual in that she has two swords rather than just one, and it makes for a great figure as well. I think it's really cool to see both of these weapons in 3D like this. Both of the handles as well are slightly different, and they've gone as far as to replicate both of those perfectly here. And her pose is of course this very simple yet very iconic, standing poised with the weapons there, and the shoes have a glossy finish which looks really good up against the socks, her skin, and the rest of the outfit too. And one of my favourite things about this figure is definitely the way they've replicated the base. This key visual takes place on a white background, and slowly the colour comes in where you can see the water, the ripples, Ruka herself. There's more colour towards the centre, but everything else is white. But they've replicated that quite nicely. They've replicated the water just in pure blue, and it's not all just one colour. There's slightly different shades of blue used throughout, so I really do appreciate that they've worked really hard to create something that really does look very close to water, and very pretty as well, I must say. They've added the extra flowers that appear on this key illustration. Very, very nicely sculpted too. You can see the ripples there from not just Ruka's feet, but also some flower petals that have fallen. And something else that is really nice is these large shards, I guess I can call them. These are also present in the illustration, but not to this extent. They slightly fade away into the background. They've replicated this by adding 4 of these shards that go from pink down to blue. These are transparent and they look really great with this figure. I really like what they've incorporated from that illustration, what they've chosen to keep and what they've chosen to adapt slightly to this figure. And I think overall they've done a very good job, as it is a very difficult illustration to turn into 3D. Overall, that is everything for my showcase of this figure. Thank you very much for watching until the end. I hope you enjoyed. As someone who has been a Key fan for many years, it's incredible to see just how Key have managed to break into a new market as a visual novel company. Visual arts as a whole being able to accomplish things they never ever would have been able to have done before, from things such as having an atore collaboration in the shopping mall, things like that visual novels never ever get. And it is still a Key game at the end of the day, so to see a Key game of all things be plastered over atore, or to have a huge presence at Comic Market and characters that are designed by not just Yugen but Naga, Maroyaka, Fumiyun and Key staff as a whole, it's really incredible to see as a fan. I never would have imagined Key making a mobile game and in this way, and it having this much of an impact on visual arts as a whole, the way they market, the way they produce goods. I mean, it's affected everything. Core Vibe being shut down and being turned into VA Store, Summerfest, Foodfest, all of this is pretty much through heavenburnsred and its revenue, and the fact that Key are now able to do so much more with one of its games that really just wouldn't have been possible before. As a Key fan, it's not every day that we get events and things or new goods, and yet heavenburnsred brings these things all the time as a mobile game, so it's a really fun, exciting experience for the old fans, and also a great way for new fans to be introduced to Key as well. Thank you very much for watching until the end. Thank you for listening to my weird ramble. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Bye!